There's a photograph that has the power to stop wars, humble dictators, and make grown scientists weep. And most people have never truly seen it. Not really seen it. They've glanced at it, scrolled past it, maybe even shared it on social media, but they've never allowed themselves to be transformed by what it actually represents. Tonight I want to show you this image through the eyes of the man who fought for its creation, who understood that sometimes a single photograph can change the entire trajectory of human consciousness. This is the story of how a tiny speck of light, captured from the edge of our solar system, became humanity's most important mirror. Imagine you're an engineer at NASA in 1990, and a persistent astronomer named Carl Sagan keeps insisting that you turn a spacecraft around, a spacecraft that's already accomplished its primary mission and is speeding toward the outer reaches of the solar system. You think it's a waste of precious fuel, valuable time, and limited resources. You argue that this family portrait he's requesting serves no scientific purpose. You call it a publicity stunt. You resist, you debate, you push back against this sentimental scientist who seems more interested in poetry than practical space exploration. Then the image comes back, and everything you thought you knew about perspective, about importance, about the nature of human existence crumbles in an instant. February 14th, 1990, Valentine's Day. While lovers on Earth exchanged flowers and promises, Voyager 1 was performing the most romantic gesture in human history, turning back for one last look at home. From 6 billion kilometers away, further than any human artifact had ever ventured, this tiny spacecraft captured something that would forever change how we see ourselves. Earth appeared as a pale blue dot, smaller than a pixel, suspended in a shaft of sunlight, barely visible against the cosmic dark. The engineers who had called it frivolous found themselves staring at their computer screens in stunned silence. Some began to cry. Others sat motionless for hours. All of them were confronting the same overwhelming realization. Everything they had ever known, every person they had ever loved, every conflict they had ever witnessed, every achievement they had ever celebrated, all of it existed on that tiny, fragile speck of light. This is what transformation looks like. Not a gradual shift in perspective, but a sudden, irreversible awakening to reality. The pale blue dot didn't just show us Earth from space. It showed us ourselves stripped of all pretense, all grandiosity, all illusions of cosmic importance. Here was humanity's entire story, reduced to a single pixel in an image that few would bother to examine closely. Here was every empire that had ever risen and fallen, every war that had ever been fought, every love that had ever bloomed, existing on what Carl Sagan would immortally describe as a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. But here's what makes this moment truly revolutionary. Seeing the pale blue dot doesn't diminish us, it liberates us. When you truly comprehend that every human drama in history has played out on that impossibly small stage, something profound shifts in your consciousness. The petty conflicts that consume your daily attention reveal themselves for what they really are: temporary disturbances on the surface of a world that is itself a temporary disturbance in the vast cosmos. The artificial divisions that separate nation from nation, ideology from ideology, human from human, dissolve when viewed from the perspective of deep space and geological time. Carl Sagan understood that this image wasn't just astronomy, it was therapy for a species suffering from cosmic amnesia. We had forgotten our true address in the universe, forgotten our actual size relative to the immensity that surrounds us, forgotten that we are all passengers on the same small world, hurtling through space at incredible speeds, with no backup plan and no place else to go. The pale blue dot reminded us of truths we had intellectually known, but never viscerally felt, that our atmosphere is thinner than the skin of an apple, that our oceans would fit in a teaspoon from the perspective of the galaxy, that our entire civilization is newer than the light from most of the stars we see at night. When the first humans saw Earth from lunar orbit during the Apollo missions, they experienced what psychologists now call the overview effect, a cognitive shift toward greater environmental awareness and a sense of unity with all life on Earth. But the pale blue dot takes this transformation further. It's not just seeing Earth from space, it's seeing Earth as space sees it, as the universe sees it, as a cosmic accident so unlikely and so precious that its very existence borders on the miraculous. This perspective doesn't make life meaningless. It makes every moment of life infinitely meaningful, because we understand, perhaps for the first time, just how rare and fragile the conditions are that make any moment possible at all. The most shocking truth about the pale blue dot isn't its size, it's its isolation. In all that cosmic dark, in all that vast emptiness, there is no hint that help will come from anywhere else to save us from ourselves. We are alone, at least for now, and this makes us responsible not just for our own lives, but for the continuation of the only story of consciousness and creativity we know exists in the universe. Every choice we make, every problem we solve, every act of kindness we perform, takes on cosmic significance when we realize that we may be the universe's only experiment in self-awareness. The transformation begins the moment you stop seeing the pale blue dot as just another photograph and start seeing it as a message from the future, a future where humanity finally understands its place in the cosmic order. But this transformation isn't automatic. It requires something that our modern world seems determined to erode: the capacity for sustained contemplation, the willingness to sit with uncomfortable truths, the courage to let reality change us rather than forcing reality to conform to our comfortable assumptions about ourselves and our importance. Carl Sagan knew that the pale blue dot would challenge everything we tell ourselves about human nature, about our cosmic significance, about the meaning of our daily struggles. He knew it would reveal the absurdity of our territorial conflicts, the futility of our nationalistic fervor, the tragic irony of a species capable of seeing itself from space, but still unable to see past the artificial boundaries it has drawn on its only home. Most importantly, he knew that once you truly see the pale blue dot, really see it, not just glance at it, you can never go back to the naive anthropocentrism that has dominated human thinking for most of our history. Think about what this image actually shows us. Every person who has ever lived has spent their entire existence on that tiny speck. Every philosopher who has pondered the meaning of life, every artist who has created beauty, every scientist who has unlocked nature's secrets, every lover who has felt their heart skip a beat, all of them lived and died on that pale blue pixel floating in the cosmic darkness. The Himalayas, the Grand Canyon, the Amazon rainforest, the vast Pacific Ocean, all of Earth's geological majesty is invisible from Voyager's distance. What you see is not the diversity of our world, but its unity. Not its complexity, but its simplicity. Not its permanence, but its incredible fragility. This is where the transformation becomes practical, not just philosophical. When you internalize the perspective of the pale blue dot, you begin to ask different questions about how you spend your limited time on this cosmic stage. The career ambitions that seemed so crucial yesterday may suddenly seem less important than the relationships you've been neglecting. The ideological battles that consumed your energy may reveal themselves as trivial disputes between passengers on the same small lifeboat. The environmental destruction you've been able to ignore may suddenly feel like vandalism of the only art gallery in the universe. But perhaps most importantly, the pale blue dot reveals something about the nature of perspective itself. From Earth's surface, humans appear large and important, while the cosmos seems distant and abstract. From Voyager's vantage point, the cosmos is immediate and overwhelming, while humans become invisible. Neither perspective is wrong, but only one tells us the truth about our actual situation. We are simultaneously insignificant in the context of cosmic space and time, and incredibly significant as possibly the only conscious observers capable of appreciating that cosmic context. We are both nothing and everything, both powerless and uniquely powerful, both temporary and eternal through the consequences of our choices. This paradox is not a philosophical puzzle to be solved. It's a practical framework for living. When you feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of global problems, remember that you are a cosmic citizen with responsibilities that extend beyond your immediate circumstances. When you feel discouraged by your apparent powerlessness to change the world, remember that you are part of the most complex and creative force we know of in the universe, human consciousness itself. When you feel isolated by the vastness of space, remember that you share this pale blue dot with billions of other conscious beings, all of them fellow travelers on the same extraordinary journey through the cosmic dark. The pale blue dot also reveals something profound about the nature of home. For most of human history, home meant your family, your tribe, your village, your nation. The view from Voyager 1 expands that definition to include the entire biosphere, not as an abstract concept, but as a visceral reality. The atmosphere that sustains all life is visible as the thinnest blue line around our world. The oceans that connect all continents appear as subtle variations in that pale blue color. The continents themselves, which have dominated human geography and politics for millennia, are invisible from this distance. What you see is not a collection of separate nations competing for resources, but a single, integrated system supporting all known life in the universe. This perspective doesn't eliminate the importance of local communities, personal relationships, or individual dreams. It places them in their proper cosmic context. Your love for your family becomes part of humanity's broader capacity for caring. Your commitment to your community becomes part of our species' remarkable ability to cooperate across vast scales of space and time. Your personal growth becomes part of the universe's ongoing experiment in consciousness and creativity. Nothing becomes less meaningful when seen from the pale blue dot perspective. Everything becomes more meaningful because you understand its connection to the larger cosmic story. If you felt your worldview shifting, as we've explored the transformative power of this single image, if you've experienced even a glimpse of the perspective that changed those NASA engineers from skeptics to believers, then you've discovered something precious, the capacity for cosmic consciousness in the digital age. This isn't just another YouTube channel you're watching. This is a community of people who understand that seeing our world from space isn't just about astronomy. It's about psychology, philosophy, and the future of human consciousness itself. When you subscribe, you're not just signing up for more videos about space. You're committing to cultivating the kind of perspective that could help our species navigate the challenges of the 21st century. Hit that subscribe button as an act of cosmic citizenship and tell me in the comments, what would change in your life if you truly internalized the perspective of the pale blue dot? What problems would seem less important? What relationships would seem more precious? What responsibilities would you take more seriously? Your reflection might be exactly what another viewer needs to complete their own transformation from terrestrial to cosmic thinking. The most dangerous delusion of our time isn't believing in conspiracy theories or rejecting scientific evidence. It's believing that the pale blue dot perspective is just poetic metaphor rather than practical wisdom for survival in the modern world. Carl Sagan didn't fight for that image to create a pretty picture for coffee table books. He fought for it because he understood that humanity was approaching a critical juncture where cosmic perspective would become essential for making the kinds of decisions that determine whether our species thrives or merely survives on our fragile home world. Consider what has happened since Voyager 1 captured that image in 1990. We've witnessed climate change accelerate beyond most scientific predictions. We've seen biodiversity collapse at rates comparable to the great mass extinctions in Earth's geological record. We've developed artificial intelligence systems whose capabilities are beginning to exceed human comprehension. We've created weapons that could end human civilization in a matter of hours. We've built global communication networks that can spread both knowledge and misinformation at the speed of light. Every one of these developments requires the kind of long-term, species-level thinking that only becomes possible when you truly understand your cosmic address. But here's what's really shocking. We've also proven that the pale blue dot perspective works. Every environmental protection law, every international cooperation agreement, every space mission that extends human presence beyond Earth, every scientific collaboration that transcends national boundaries, all of these achievements become possible when people stop thinking like residents of separate countries and start thinking like citizens of a shared planet. The same overview effect that transformed those Apollo astronauts has been quietly transforming policymakers, business leaders, and ordinary citizens who have learned to see their local problems in cosmic context. The climate scientists who spend their careers studying our planet's atmospheric systems aren't just collecting data, they're practicing pale blue dot thinking. They understand that the thin layer of gases surrounding our world isn't just environment, it's the life support system for the only known conscious beings in the universe. The conservation biologists working to preserve endangered species aren't just protecting animals, they're safeguarding billions of years of evolutionary experimentation that produced the intricate web of life we see from space as a subtle blue-green tint on our pale dot. The renewable energy engineers designing solar panels and wind turbines aren't just building technology, they're helping our species learn to live sustainably on the only world we have. This is where the pale blue dot perspective becomes revolutionary rather than merely contemplative. When you truly internalize that Earth is the only known refuge for life in the universe, certain choices become obvious. You don't poison the only water supply you have. You don't destroy the only atmosphere capable of supporting complex life. You don't exhaust the only soil that can grow the food that keeps you alive. You don't wage war over arbitrary lines drawn on the surface of the only world that can sustain any of the combatants. These aren't moral imperatives imposed from outside. They're practical consequences of understanding your actual situation. But the transformation goes deeper than environmental awareness. The pale blue dot perspective reveals the fundamental interconnectedness of all human experience. The oxygen you're breathing right now has been cycling through the biosphere for billions of years. Some of those molecules may have been part of the last breath of a dinosaur, the photosynthetic process of an ancient tree, the exhalation of a human being who lived centuries ago. The water in your body has fallen as rain on every continent, flowed through countless rivers, evaporated from tropical oceans and Arctic ice. The carbon in your DNA was forged in the nuclear furnaces of stars that died before our solar system formed, scattered across space by stellar explosions, gradually incorporated into the chemistry of life over cosmic timescales. You are not just living on the pale blue dot. You are made of pale blue dot material, animated by pale blue dot energy, thinking pale blue dot thoughts. Your consciousness isn't separate from the cosmic story. It's how the cosmic story becomes aware of itself. Your creativity isn't disconnected from cosmic evolution. It's how cosmic evolution continues to unfold through increasingly complex forms of organization and awareness. Your capacity for love isn't merely biological programming. It's how the universe expresses care for its own continuation and development. This understanding transforms everything about how you relate to other people. The person who disagrees with your political views is made of the same star stuff as you, breathing the same ancient air, sustained by the same remarkable biosphere that produced both of your capacities for thought and feeling. The stranger you pass on the street shares more of your cosmic heritage than either of you shares with any other known form of consciousness in the universe. The enemy soldier fighting for a different ideology is a fellow passenger on the same extraordinary journey through space and time, equally dependent on the same thin layer of protective atmosphere, equally heir to the same 4 billion-year evolutionary story. Carl Sagan called this cosmic consciousness, not as a mystical experience, but as a practical framework for making decisions that acknowledge the reality of our situation. When you vote, you're not just choosing policies for your nation. You're participating in the governance of the only known conscious species in the universe. When you choose how to spend your time, you're not just managing your personal schedule, you're deciding how the universe will use some of its precious self-aware moments. When you treat another person with kindness or cruelty, you're not just affecting that individual, you're influencing the overall character of consciousness itself as it manifests on this pale blue dot. The pale blue dot doesn't just change how you see Earth, it changes how you see yourself. You are not an accident of chemistry and physics, but the result of the most remarkable creative process we know of, cosmic evolution, becoming self-aware through human consciousness. You are not separate from nature, but nature's most complex achievement. You are not insignificant in the cosmic scheme, but cosmically significant as possibly the only being in your galaxy who can contemplate galaxies. As we approach the end of our journey together, we arrive at the most profound implication of the pale blue dot. It reveals that we are living at the most extraordinary moment in cosmic history, when matter has organized itself into forms complex enough to photograph itself from across the solar system and understand what that photograph means. You are not just looking at an image taken by Voyager 1. You are participating in the universe's first successful attempt to see itself from outside its own immediate experience. This is not science fiction or philosophical speculation. This is the documented reality of your existence in the 21st century. But with this unprecedented perspective comes unprecedented responsibility. We are the first generation of humans to see our entire world from space, to understand our cosmic address, to grasp the delicate nature of the biosphere that sustains all known life. We are also the first generation with the technological power to fundamentally alter our planet's climate, to cause mass extinctions, to reach other worlds, and to search for life beyond Earth. The choices we make in the coming decades will determine whether the pale blue dot continues to support the magnificent experiment in consciousness that we represent, or whether it becomes a cautionary tale for whatever other intelligent species might eventually develop in distant galaxies. Carl Sagan understood that this moment demands a new level of maturity from our species, what he called planetary consciousness. We must learn to think and act as citizens of Earth first, members of the human family first, guardians of the only known refuge for life first. This doesn't mean abandoning local loyalties, personal relationships, or individual dreams. It means placing all of these in their proper cosmic context. Your love for your family becomes part of humanity's broader capacity for caring that makes civilization possible. Your commitment to your community becomes part of our species' remarkable ability to cooperate across vast scales that makes science, art, and exploration possible. The path forward requires what the pale blue dot teaches us about perspective itself, the ability to zoom out far enough to see the big picture, then zoom back in with wisdom about how your individual actions fit into that larger story. When you feel overwhelmed by global challenges, remember that you are part of the most creative and adaptable species that has ever evolved on this planet. When you feel discouraged by human conflict and stupidity, remember that you are also part of the only species that has ever photographed its own home from space and felt moved by what it saw. Most importantly, the pale blue dot perspective offers something that no other worldview can provide, a genuine foundation for hope based on understanding rather than wishful thinking. Yes, we face enormous challenges as a species. Yes, we have made mistakes that threaten our future. Yes, the universe is vast and often indifferent to our struggles, but we are also the products of a 4 billion-year evolutionary journey that has overcome seemingly impossible obstacles before. We carry within our DNA the resilience of life itself, the creativity of cosmic evolution, the problem-solving capacity that allowed our ancestors to survive ice ages, volcanic catastrophes, and countless other challenges that would have ended most species. More than that, we are the first species on Earth to understand these connections, to see the big picture, to grasp both our vulnerabilities and our capabilities. We know enough about planetary systems to understand how rare Earth-like worlds are, and we have developed technologies that could help us find and eventually reach other such worlds. We understand enough about climate systems to predict how human activities affect them, and we have the knowledge to develop sustainable energy systems. We know enough about biology to appreciate the intricate web of life that supports us, and we have tools that can help us protect and restore damaged ecosystems. The pale blue dot reveals that we are not victims of cosmic circumstance, but active participants in cosmic evolution. Every decision you make from this perspective matters because you are not just making personal choices. You are helping to determine what kind of universe we become. When you choose evidence over wishful thinking, cooperation over competition, long-term sustainability over short-term gain, creativity over destruction, you are participating in the universe's ongoing experiment in consciousness and helping it develop in directions that support more life, more awareness, more beauty, more love. This is what Carl Sagan saw when he looked at that pale blue dot suspended in a sunbeam. Not just a small world in a vast cosmos, but the most extraordinary achievement of cosmic evolution, a place where the universe has awakened to itself and begun to take responsibility for its own future. You are that awakening. You are that responsibility. You are the universe's way of caring for itself, understanding itself, and choosing what it wants to become. Every time you look up at the night sky and feel connected to something larger than yourself, you are fulfilling the promise that Sagan saw in humanity. Every time you choose wonder over cynicism, curiosity over certainty, compassion over cruelty, you are proving that consciousness can be trusted with cosmic responsibility. Every time you protect something beautiful, create something meaningful, or help another person understand their place in the larger story, you are justifying the 4 billion years of evolution that made your existence possible. If this cosmic perspective has awakened something in you, if you feel called to live as a citizen of the universe rather than just a resident of your particular corner of the pale blue dot, then you've found more than just entertainment here. You've found your cosmic family. This community exists for people who understand that the view from Voyager 1 isn't just a pretty picture, but a call to action, an invitation to maturity, a challenge to become worthy of our cosmic inheritance. Subscribe not just to stay informed, but to stay connected to others who are trying to live up to the extraordinary responsibility of being conscious in a universe that may depend on consciousness for its continued evolution toward greater complexity, beauty, and meaning. Share in the comments how the pale blue dot perspective has changed your priorities, your relationships, your sense of purpose. Tell us what you think our species needs to do to honor the cosmic gift of consciousness on this tiny, precious, irreplaceable world we all call home.